It hit me like a rogue wave in the middle of a calm sea. 1 second, everything was normal. The flickering locker room lights, the sweat-soaked jerseys, the low buzz of fluorescent bulbs. The next, I was drowning in it. Not in fear, not in pain, in him. In Matt. In the way he looked at me like I wasn't just his best friend anymore. He wasn't supposed to look at me like that. I'd known Matt since we were kids building forts out of couch cushions and sneaking candy from the convenience store. We were a duo, the kind you'd expect to grow old swapping jokes and watching football from a shared couch. But now, there was a spark in his eyes, subtle but scorching, and I was completely unprepared for the way it made me feel. We had always been close, like peanut butter and jelly, like sneakers and pavement, but lately that closeness felt different. Like the line between just bros and something else was being rubbed out, a little more every day. It felt like gravity had shifted, and I couldn't tell if I was falling or flying. After practice, we were always the last to leave. The rest of the team vanished in a storm of noise and clashing lockers. But we lingered, wrapped in a quiet that usually felt safe. Familiar. Not today. Today, the silence felt alive, like it was watching us. The clang of metal echoed like a warning bell, and my chest tightened. I tried to act normal, hunched over, double knotting my shoes like they held the answers. I avoided his face, but my eyes betrayed me, flicking back to him again and again, to the slope of his shoulders, the mess of hair above his brow. Every detail burned itself into my brain like I was seeing him for the first time, and it was driving me insane. He peeled off his jersey, muscles flexing with the motion, and then he looked at me. "Dude," he said, brow furrowed. "You're acting off. Seriously." I flinched like he'd smacked me. "Just tired," I mumbled. "Weak." But what else could I say? "Hey man, I think I'm spiraling because suddenly you're the only person I can't stop thinking about." His eyes narrowed, not buying it. Matt had this uncanny way of cutting through people's BS. He studied my face, searching, and for the first time ever, I felt exposed. Not physically, emotionally, like he could see every thought I was trying to bury. And then he stepped closer. "Come on," he said softly. "Talk to me. What's going on?" I swallowed hard, heart slamming against my ribs. "There's something I need to tell you. About us." The words cracked the air wide open. "It's different now," I said, barely above a whisper. "I don't know when it changed, but I can't stop thinking about it. About you." For a moment, the locker room was pure silence. No buzz, no echoes, just two hearts thundering in their cages. I braced for disaster, but instead, he touched my arm, gentle, electric, and whispered, "Same here." That's when the world spun off its axis. His lips brushed mine. Slow, uncertain, but real. The heat of it, the softness, the way time seemed to collapse. It all hit me at once. Every breath, every joke we'd ever shared, every late-night gaming session. It had all led to this. Then I snapped back to the present. We were still in the locker room. Anyone could walk in. I staggered back, breath shallow. "What are we doing?" Matt didn't flinch. "I don't know," he said, "but it doesn't feel wrong." And that's what scared me the most. The next few days felt like walking a tightrope with no safety net. From the outside, we were the same. Still laughing at dumb memes, still shooting hoops after school, still acting like everything was chill. But underneath, it was chaos. Pure, pulsing, beautifully terrifying chaos. Every time I looked at Matt, it was like gravity had its own rules. I could feel the weight of his glance before it even landed on me. We never talked about the kiss. Not directly. It hovered between us like fog, dense and unspoken, touching everything without being named. There were moments I thought I imagined the whole thing, that maybe my brain, hungry for something more, had conjured it up out of longing. But then I'd catch him watching me, lips slightly parted, expression soft in a way that wasn't just friendly. That's when I'd know it wasn't just me. He was feeling this too, but we danced around it, carefully, painfully, At school, the distance between us was measured in inches, but it may as well have been miles. Sitting side by side in the cafeteria, our knees would brush under the table, and the contact would linger. Not long enough for anyone else to notice, but just long enough to make my pulse spike. In the locker room, his hand would graze mine as we grabbed our gear, and it would take every ounce of willpower not to reach for him fully. It was torture, sweet and maddening. Friday came, and with it, a storm brewing in my chest. I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten much either. My thoughts were a mess of questions with no answers. Was it real? Was it a mistake? Was I ready to risk everything? Our friendship, our team, my sanity. Just to chase this? That evening, we were at Matt's place, like we had been 100 times before. Only this time, the air felt thick. His parents were gone for the weekend. We had the house to ourselves, which should have felt like freedom, but instead, it felt like pressure. A test we hadn't studied for. We sprawled on his bed, a movie playing in the background, neither of us really watching. My eyes were on the screen, but my focus was entirely on the space between us. Hey, thanks for watching until this point. Please leave a comment if you're enjoying the video. It really helps us grow the channel and reach more people. And hey, thank you very much. Let's get back to story. The literal inches separating our hands. My fingers twitched, aching to close the gap. Matt sat up suddenly, and I followed, startled. Hey, he said, voice low. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. I nodded, waiting for the hammer to fall. He shifted to face me completely. His eyes locked on mine with an intensity I'd never seen from him before. Not on the court, not in the classroom, not even when he was laser-focused during a game. About what happened, he continued. In the locker room, I can't stop thinking about it. Neither could I. I don't know what it means, I admitted, my voice thin and uneven. It felt right, but also scary as hell. He exhaled, a shaky breath of someone holding too much for too long. Yeah, same here. I need to know if this is a thing, like for real, or if it was just one moment. I turned to him fully, my heart pounding against the walls of my chest. I want it to be real, I said, but I'm scared. I don't know how to do this. A quiet smile broke across his face. Not cocky, not teasing, just genuine. We don't have to know everything right now, he said softly. I just need to know if you're in this, with me. And there it was, the real question. Not just, do you like me, but are you brave enough to stand in this fire with me and see what survives? I reached for his hand, fingers threading through his. I'm in, I said. His eyes lit up like sunrise breaking over the ocean. That was all he needed. The next moment was a blur. His lips on mine, his body pulling me closer, and everything else melting away. The pressure, the questions, the fear, all replaced by heat and urgency and a feeling that maybe, just maybe, this was where we were always meant to land. The rest of the night unraveled like a dream I was scared to wake from. We didn't talk. We didn't need to. Everything we tried to keep inside came out through touch, quiet, urgent, unspoken. Matt's hands found mine, steady but trembling. His lips chased answers we didn't have the courage to voice. We moved like two halves finally recognizing each other, fitting into a space we hadn't even realized we were missing. His bed creaked beneath us, the blankets twisted and forgotten as we tangled in each other. Every brush of skin was a revelation. It wasn't rushed, not exactly, but it was messy, raw and a little desperate, like we'd both been holding our breath for too long and were finally coming up for air. There was something electric about being in his room, in his space, with no one around to question or interrupt. And yet, as soon as it was over, reality punched its way back in. We lay there, catching our breath, heartbeats still sprinting. The room felt smaller, the shadows longer. Doubt crept in through the silence, an unwelcome guest we'd both tried to lock out. I could feel it tightening my chest. The fear, the questions, the what-ifs. I pulled back, sitting up abruptly. We shouldn't have done that, I muttered, voice shaking. Matt blinked, confused and bare, in more ways than one. "Why not?" he asked, pushing himself up on his elbows. "No one's here. It was just us." "That's not the point," I said, rubbing my hands through my hair. "It's not about who's here now. It's about who might find out. What happens if this gets out?" The light in his eyes dimmed a little. He looked down at his hands, flexing his fingers like he didn't know what to do with them. "So, what, you regret it?" "No," I said too fast, and my voice cracked. "No, not at all. That's the problem. I liked it. I liked it too much. And I don't know what to do with that." He was quiet for a moment before replying, "I get it. I do. But I'm tired of pretending. I don't want to hide anymore." The words landed hard. Tired of pretending. I was too. But I also wasn't sure I had the strength to stop. I struggled to find the words. "I don't want to lose you, or ruin everything, or turn this into something we look back on and wish we hadn't started." Matt reached out, his fingers brushing mine. Tentative but deliberate. "Then let's not ruin it. Let's not pretend it didn't happen either. We'll take it slow. Be smart. Be careful. But don't ask me to act like nothing's changed. Because everything has changed." I nodded slowly, a war still raging inside me, love versus fear, hope versus doubt. "Okay," I whispered. "Slow. Smart. Careful. Together." "Together," he echoed, and that word wrapped itself around my chest like armor. We laid back down, not saying much. But this time we stayed side by side, fingers intertwined on top of the blanket. It didn't erase the fear or the risks, but it gave us something to hold onto. For the first time in days, I felt like I could finally breathe. Monday hit like a brick wall. High school had always been a balancing act, tests, games, hallway politics, but now it felt like navigating a minefield blindfolded. Matt and I had promised to keep things quiet, low-key, hidden beneath the surface. But it turns out hiding something this big from a world built on gossip and side-eyes? Nearly impossible. We tried. God, we tried. On the outside, we were still the same duo, high-fiving after practice, cracking jokes at lunch, slouching through math class like it was a shared punishment. But every accidental glance across the room carried extra weight. Every brush of his hand sent a shock up my spine. It was like being haunted by desire, constantly fighting the urge to reach for something I'd already tasted. And people noticed. Maybe not exactly what, but something. I saw it in the way Sarah from algebra tilted her head a little when we walked into the cafeteria. I saw it in how Coach gave us a second look during drills. But the worst came from Eric, loud, cocky, and always a little too observant for comfort. It was before our big Friday game, and the locker room was alive with noise, shouting, clanging, adrenaline. I tried to keep it together, lacing my sneakers, keeping my head down. But I felt it. That stare. I glanced up, and there was Eric across the room, watching me with a twisted kind of curiosity. His eyes flicked between me and Matt, something clearly clicking behind them. I looked away fast, but the damage was done. My stomach twisted into knots. Something in me just knew he was onto us. That night after the game, I found Matt pacing in his room, running his fingers through his hair like he was trying to dig into his own scalp. "You saw Eric, right?" he asked before I could even shut the door. "He knows something. I can feel it." "Yeah," I admitted. "He's putting it together." "Dude, what if he says something?" Matt said, panic creeping into his voice. "What if the team finds out? What if Coach finds out?" I didn't have answers. Only fears. The same ones clawing at me since the kiss. This wasn't just about us anymore, it was about everyone else too. Friends, teammates, parents, expectations. "We've been careful," I said, trying to sound reassuring. "But yeah, we need to be even more careful now." Matt sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. "I hate this," he muttered. "I hate that we even have to be careful." I sat beside him, our knees touching. "Me too," I said. "But we're in this, remember? Together." He looked up at me, and for a second, I could see the fear crack into something deeper, vulnerability. "I'm scared, man. I don't want to lose everything." I reached out, placing my hand on his. "Then we don't. We face it. If it comes, we deal with it." He didn't smile, but he nodded. "Together?" he asked, voice small. "Always," I said. But the next day at school proved just how fast things could spin out of control. By third period, whispers had started. I couldn't catch full words, but I didn't need to. The sideways looks were louder than any sentence. People stared longer than normal, laughed when nothing was funny. That awful sensation of being talked about clung to my skin like oil I couldn't wash off. It got worse by lunch. When I reached my locker, the word freak was scratched across it in thick black marker. Not sprayed, not painted, scratched like someone had taken their time. My lungs locked up. It felt personal, violent. I stood frozen, 100 different responses flashing through my mind, but none making it to my limbs. I didn't even hear him approach until he was right behind me. "You gonna cry?" came Eric's voice, dripping with venom. I turned and there he was, arms folded, smug smirk stretching across his face like he'd just won a game I didn't know I was playing. "Cat's out of the bag, H," he said, eyes gleaming. The hallway was too quiet. Too many people were watching. I wanted to swing, to scream, to disappear. But then Matt was there. He moved fast, stepping between us, his stance firm, his expression sharper than I'd ever seen. "Back off," he said. Not loud, not a yell, but with enough weight to hush the crowd. Eric raised his hands like he was being arrested. "Just having a little fun." "Try again," Matt said, eyes burning. Then he turned to the hallway, not just to me, not just to Eric, to everyone. "We're done hiding," he announced, voice even but bold. "Yeah, we're together. Deal with it." The silence was suffocating. And then whispers, a few laughs. Someone muttered something behind a hand, but no one stepped forward. No one said anything else. Matt looked at me, his hand finding my shoulder. "Let's go." We walked, side by side, through the murmuring hallway like we were walking a battlefield. But with every step, something cracked open in me. Not fear, but relief. Because it was done. No more guessing, no more hiding. We were seen now, and I wasn't alone. We pushed through the school doors into the cold afternoon air, the chill biting at our skin. But I didn't care. I turned to him, my voice barely above a breath. "Now what?" He didn't hesitate. "Come with me." And I did. We didn't speak as we walked. The cold stung our cheeks, but neither of us flinched. Matt's grip on my wrist was steady. Like if he let go, we'd both disappear. He led me across the parking lot, through a side gate and back around the gym building. I didn't have to ask where we were going. I already knew. The locker room. When he pushed the door open, the smell of sweat, rubber, and metal hit me like déjà vu. The space was dim, hollow, too familiar. This was where it started, the eye contact, the kiss, the spiral. And now we were back, different people with the same beating hearts. He shut the door behind us and turned to face me. No smirk, no cocky grin, just eyes full of something deep, something burning. "I couldn't let him have the last word," he said, breath clouding the air between us. "I'm not ashamed of this." I nodded, chest tight. "Me neither. Just scared." Matt stepped in close. "You think I'm not?" I searched his face, that little furrow in his brow, the tension in his jaw, the wild in his eyes. Yeah. He was scared, but he was also here. "What if things get worse?" I asked. "What if this ruins everything?" He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from my forehead. "Then we start over, from scratch, just us." It sounded reckless, beautiful, impossible, and yet it made something in me settle. Like maybe the fallout was worth it if it meant we got to be real. No edits, no filters. He leaned in slowly, giving me space to pull away, but I didn't. I closed the distance myself. The kiss was fiercer this time. There was no confusion in it, no hesitation, just heat and clarity and the roar of blood in my ears. His hands gripped the sides of my jacket, pulling me closer like the world was tilting and I was the only solid ground. And God, I melted. We backed into the wall between lockers, the cool surface anchoring me as our bodies pressed together, desperate and imperfect and right. I felt his breath on my skin, the tension of everything we hadn't said pouring out in waves. We didn't talk. There was nothing to say. The rustle of clothing, the creak of the bench, they were reminders that anyone could walk in. And still, neither of us stopped. When we finally broke apart, breathless and flushed, my heart was pounding in my throat. "We should go," I whispered, adrenaline still surging. He nodded, but not before resting his forehead against mine for a beat. Whatever happens, I'm not walking away. Me either. We left through the back entrance, not saying another word. Just walking side by side, matching steps, the cold air shocking our senses back to earth. Every glance we exchanged said what our voices couldn't. We'd crossed a line, and there was no going back. The following days felt like a dream dipped in static. We were no longer hiding, but we weren't exactly free either. The whispers followed us. In the halls, at lunch, in the echo chamber of every classroom we entered. Most people didn't say anything outright, but their silence was louder than words. The stares, the awkward half-smiles, the way conversations stopped when we walked by. It was like walking through fog that never lifted. But the weird part? I didn't care as much as I thought I would. Maybe it was the way Matt stayed by my side, never flinching, never faltering. Maybe it was the weight that had been lifted, now that we didn't have to fake anything. Maybe it was just knowing that someone saw everything I was and still chose me. Still, it wasn't easy. Someone tagged my locker again, this time with a cruder word. A teacher looked past us when handing out papers in class. A few teammates started sitting at the other end of the bench during practice. But through it all, Matt never let go. If anything, he held tighter. One afternoon, as we sat on the bleachers after everyone had cleared out, I let the silence settle between us. I didn't think it would get to me, I admitted. But it does. Matt nodded, not pretending to be surprised. It gets to me too. But we're still here. I looked at him, and I didn't see the boy I used to goof around with on the court or in our basements. I saw someone stronger. Someone who chose to stand up instead of step back. Someone I hadn't just fallen for, someone I trusted. I keep thinking about before, I said. How simple it was. How we didn't have to think so hard. It was simpler, he agreed. But it wasn't honest. And that landed hard. We had built something new, not from scratch, but from truth. From risk. And it felt like fire under our skin and steel in our spines. Messy, uncertain, real. I don't know what comes next, I said. With school, with the team, with us. Matt reached over, fingers curling around mine. We don't have to know. We just show up. We keep choosing this every day. I look down at our hands, then back up at him. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard. His voice cracked a little on that last word, and something in my chest cracked with it. We sat there, letting the quiet stretch out, holding each other's gaze, the evening sun throwing long shadows across the court. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. But it was ours. And that was enough. For now.